fifth stop on this year's European Le Mans Series calendar is the historic Spa-Francorchamps circuit, renowned for its own microclimate, massive gradient change throughout its 7 kilometres. And the first car race here held way back in 1923. It's also the home, of course, of the Belgian Grand Prix, first held here in 1925. And the trees in the Ardennes forest then very familiar to the sounds of race cars. We've got 3 different categories, as always, as part of the ELMS. LMP2, LMP3, but we start with a 12-minute qualifying session for the LMGTE cars. My name's Johnny Palmer, and I'm joined by Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com to take you through this. It was a troubled recent session for the Michelin Le Mans Cup cars. We hope we get through this without a session stoppage, but there's no doubt about it, Graham, track conditions are far from ideal after quite a bit of rain this morning.
There was indeed a lot of rain this morning in free practice too. A couple get caught out, a couple of the cars. We'll wait and see whether or not they emerge a little later. Trouble for the Graf Racing LMP2 Orecas in that session. But it has been drying pretty rapidly. We saw some extraordinary switches of time in the LMP3 session, much delayed, that's just been completed for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. So let's wait and see what kind of times they can squeeze out of these fabulous GTE cars. Is a Porsche and Ferrari battle here this weekend. 3 apiece with 2 Proton cars, the 3 Ferraris. Here's one of them, the number 55 car, Duncan Cameron's car. He shares with Matt Griffin and Aaron Scott, 55 Spirit of Race car. The dark green, deep green and white livery designed by Duncan Cameron, and very proud of this car, quite right too. The 2 slate grey Proton Competition Porsche 911 RSRs and the Royal Blue and Gold car behind there. That's the car with the EB Motors branding, the team that took the title in the Michelin Le Mans Cup last year, stepped up to full season in GTE. Krone Racing and the unmissable Krone Green 83 car.
Yeah, and the squad from Krone Racing yet to feature on the podium. This car, though, after a bizarre race at Silverstone, one of the most complicated events I think Graham and I have commentated on, with various in-race penalties to take into account. The 66 won by a matter of metres, although not on the track.
So 1/10 of a second. On
the timing screen, and that was all down to Spanish driver Miguel Molina, who managed to open up a sufficient gap on the chasing pack. So that has closed up the championship fight by 7 points. Therefore, Proton Competition in their 88 car lead by 9 over number 66, but Spirit of Race really aren't very far away in third. And the 4th place car, the other Proton Competition machine, not yet out of it either. 52 points on offer, including a point for pole in this session. And there's an indication of the sort of weather we're maybe going to get over the next, half an hour to 40 minutes, with 3 lots of 12 minutes still to come. They're normally 10-minute sessions, these, in the ELMS qualifying, but 2 extra minutes added because of the length of the circuit. 13 degrees Celsius ambient temperature, track temperature not much higher than that at 15. There's a 65% chance of rain, with an 8km/h wind bringing that cloud closer to the track. Rain light certainly the order of the day, and possibly wet weather tyres as well, as these cars are prepared on the apron of the Grand Prix pit lane. This is where all these cars will be stopping and where all the teams are based for the weekend as well.
Yep, the only predictable thing about the weather at Spa is its unpredictability, and we've had
9,
more than a flavour of that.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green. Qualifying for LMGT has started. Track has been declared wet. All cars must have the rain lights on. I do remind you of slippery track between T4 and T5 on driver's left-hand side, especially approaching T5.
So off goes Tracy Krone first in the queue in number 83. In the EB Motors car, it is Riccardo Pera, the 19-year-old Italian. We've got Matt Griffin at the wheel of the number 55 Ferrari, the Spirit of Race car, about to overtake Tracy Krone early on in the session. Also into the session goes Miguel Molina for J&W Motorsport, and we wait to see who is driving the 2 Proton Competition Porsches.
So 11 minutes left in this session, and Proton clearly holding both of their cars. a bit of space. Squeeze the very best out of what will be tricky conditions. Remember, all Dunlop shod in this session.
And the nice thing about the season so far is that we haven't had one car take 2 pole positions yet. The 88 has had a turn at the front of the grid, likewise the 66 Ferrari. We've also seen poles for the 77 Proton Porsche and the number 80 EB Motors car too. So can we get a 5th different pole sitter in 5 races, 5 events, I wonder?
Well, Matt Griffin's going to be trying what he can do to do exactly that, isn't he? It has been a real nip and tuck season. We've had some fabulous racing with these cars. You're right, that technical challenge of the running penalties last time around was something very different, but even back to the very first race of the season, and a stunning battle to determine who would actually take the win at Paul Ricard. Inches the gap on the final lap.
One thing for sure about JMW Motorsport, they've had to work hard for both of their victories.
Oh, good grief, yes.
So far. And on both occasions, it was the 88 following them home. So they were able to open up a little bit of a championship lead after the first 2 races. The thing that cost them was the non-finish at Red Bull Ring when the car conked out towards the end of the lap when Liam Griffin was driving it, I seem to remember.
Absolutely.
And that in a series with only 6 races, a non-finish costs you massively. And I forget now, it was drivetrain related, I think. That
gearbox, I think
yes.
It possibly was. And not the first time, I'm afraid, GMW have had those kind of problems. I seem to remember at the last race of the season 2-3 years ago.
In Portugal.
Where they stood to win the championship at a canter.
Yeah.
And it was just a horrible, bitter goal, wasn't it, for them? But just 9 minutes left. Matt Griffin starts his flying lap.
Staying off the area where, in the previous session, Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, in his number 71 Ferrari, had a strange incident where the car just turned left without any warning at all for the Italian driver, and it slammed into the barrier. A most bizarre incident with just one car involved, and it meant a long time for the barrier to be repaired, and also quite a bit of mopping up to be done there of oil and other fluids. So the drivers sensibly staying to driver's right and avoiding that whole patch.
Running so far, and for the most part in the LMS, it's been done in, either track conditions that are wet or drying, and it's been very much a Porsche affair so far. Matt Griffin is the man that's going to be looking to change that storyline in just 8.5 minutes' time. Can he do so? We'll wait and see. Matteo Caroli is now out and aboard the number 88 Proton competition car. Dennis Olsen aboard the sister 77 car. Both have been extremely quick so far this season.
And Ricardo Pera is just over 0.2 of a second faster than Griffin through that first sector, but Griffin's gone very quickly indeed through sector 2. Matteo Cairoli, somebody to look out for as well in the number 88 Porsche. Cairoli cannot be GTE Drivers' Champion because he missed a round when Jimmy Bruni slotted in at Monza to join the Roda father and son team. But Cairoli is going to be working incredibly hard to ensure that Gianluca and Giorgio can be champions this year for Proton. They've got quite a bit more work to do though, just nursing this 9-point championship lead.
So first flying lap of the session goes to Matt Griffin. It's just under 2:18. It's 2:17.977. But we've got another little gaggle of cars coming towards the end of the lap. First of those is going to be Ricardo Pera. He had to deal with a little bit of traffic. Will that have stopped him from grabbing that provisional pole position? The answer is no, it didn't. It's a 2:17.305. So 2:17.3 for Pera, 2:17.9 for Griffin, 2:26. Tracy Crown looking to find his way here. The next one through will be Miguel Molina. He goes through the 2:18.6, so that puts the JMW car third. So EB Motors from Spirit of Race from JMW, then Crow Racing, and we're waiting now for the first offering from Matteo Caroli and Dennis Olsen aboard these 2 Proton cars.
The decision from Crone will be deliberate though to put Tracy out there, the American. He's the bronze graded driver, but getting used to this track in slippery conditions when there are fewer cars out on track as well. Nick Jonsson, yes, okay, could put the car on the front row, but Tracy still with everything to gain. The other driver in that combination is Mr. Ferrari, really, Andrea Bertolini.
There's that famous line in the film about bringing a gun to a knife fight. Well, Proton competition, Matteo Caroli aboard the howitzer, 2:15.654, 1.6 seconds quicker on the first offer from Matteo Caroli. Just under 6 minutes to go. Dennis Olsen is on his flyer right now. So Caroli, Perra, Griffin, Molina, Krone, and then Dennis Olsen still to actually get a score on the door. But it is a Porsche front row at the moment with 5.5 minutes remaining of this 12-minute session.
And of all the pole sitters this year, 3 of them have been Porsches, only the one for Ferrari for J&W Motorsport, the Liam Griffin, Alex McDowell and Miguel Molina combination. They come good in the races though, and 66 might be the best qualifying Ferrari by the end of this, but Matt Griffin, no relation to Liam by the way, is pedalling very, very quickly in the all-green 55, be assured of that. Lost a little bit of time there in the middle sector, did the Irishman. However, Spaniard Molina now just heading through curve Paul Frere with the tyre wall right on the edge of the track there, but he keeps it inside the curbing and now heads towards Blanchimont underneath the advertising hoardings.
News coming, by the way, just yesterday evening at a chat with team owner Jim McWhirter from JMW. They're taking a look to see whether or not a move in the latter part of the 2019 World Endurance Championship might be on the horizon for JMW Motorsport, something that Jim and his faithful crew have looked at before. Let's wait and see. There's a bit of time to go before then. Right now, they'll be fully focused on a championship run here. The 2 Proton competition cars come together on track, not literally, but the pass is made. 77 in the hands of Dennis Olsen goes through. This is his run to improve his grid position. Perra goes through, has improved, just takes another 1/10.5 off his best time. Molina, meanwhile, leapfrogs Matt Griffin. Griffin's been in and out of the pits. We've got 4 minutes remaining. Here is Olsen. Where's this going to leave him? Caroli tops the times. Olsen goes second. So it's a 1-2-3 now for Porsche, but more importantly for Christian Ried & Co., it is a Proton competition front row. 88 from 77. The gap, 0.8 of a second.
Molina had that lap deleted, so that drops him back down to 5th position. That was lap 3, and as you say, Olsen now makes it a Proton 1-2 as Molina maybe runs a little bit deep into Bruxelles. Now, I think he had everything in hand there. You can treat that as 2 separate corners effectively and cut in for the first apex, let the car wash out mid-corner and then cut back again for the second bit of it. Then head for Speaker's Corner, the left-hander. Doesn't strictly have a name on any track map that I've seen at Spa, but it's called Speaker's Corner because it's the corner that's visible from the commentary box from the main start line. Through Pouin, the double left-hander, and then on towards La Fagna, and all the weight shifts to the front of the Ferrari as it slows. And up over the curb there goes Molina. He's leaving nothing on the table here, but Porsche's first, second, and now third, with Perra slotting into that second row in EB Motors number 18.
Speaker's Corner yet got its official moniker of Jackie X Corner. That was about to happen, wasn't it, this year?
I must check that. 2.5
minutes remain. 2:15.6 is the mark. Matteo Caroli is the man with that. It doesn't look to me as if anybody at the moment is in a position to challenge that directly. Let's wait and see, though. Dennis Olsen might have different ideas. 88 from 77, then 80 and 55. Matt Griffin back out and having another crack at this. We'll have probably one more flying lap at it. Miguel Molina about to cross the line. Can he improve from his 2:18.676? He does and goes 4th. 2:17.8, so he just takes a 1/10.5 of a second out of Matt Griffin. Griffin, though, will be looking to improve before the end of this session, which has got now 2 minutes to run, Johnny Palmer.
Yeah, and it's all about Porsche 911 RSRs right now with their 4-litre flat 6s as into the bus-stop chicane comes car 77. Cairoli still circulating, but well off the pace on this lap. I just wonder whether he thinks he's done enough here for another pole position of the season as Olsen then goes over the line in car 77. Ricardo Perra in EB Motors is somewhere in the middle sector of the lap, and the J&W Motorsport Ferrari, although going very quickly, Miguel Molina at the wheel, it is unlikely to improve at least go quicker than the Porsches on this lap.
The key, I think, here is going to be the battle between the two fast men in the Ferraris. At the moment, it looks like the two chasing Porsches are just nibbling away at the gap, but not to the point where that 2:15.654 at the moment looks under any real threat. The key is going to be, I think, this first sector time now from the number 77 car. 88 car has pitted.
Yep.
Got 50 seconds to go. Is this going to be a lap at pace and on the pace? If it's not, that might be game over for pole position.
Well, Cairoli thinks he's done enough because off camera just gave his mechanic a high five. He's stepping into the garage and they're already starting to celebrate down at Proton Competition because Dennis Olsen is still to come around. A 39.260 is his time through the first sector. That's dropped about 2/10 compared to Cairoli's time. And let's face it, even if disaster struck and Dennis Olsen did go faster, it would still be a pole for the other team's car. So the other car in the team, I mean, and we will see whether there's a late change of position in this session. There's also third and fourth places up for grabs because last time around Ricardo Pera did manage to find improvement, as does Miguel Molina. What about, though, Matt Griffin, who's no slouch, as we know? He's up during this lap. So car 55 for Spirit of Race, chasing that pole position for the season, a first one. And it looks unlikely, considering Matteo Cairoli's pace. Through the right, through the left now, the bus stop chicane. The checkered flag is waved then to the 55 Ferrari, and it will be an improvement. Fourth position for Matt Griffin, and he jumps ahead of the J&W Motorsport 488.
But that is 2 seconds, all but a tenth, off the pole position time. It's pretty clear to me the Porsches do have an advantage here this weekend. Track conditions, the nature of the track, and maybe a little bit of balance of performance in their favour here, and not by a tenth or two. So that is going to be, I'm sure, something which the Ferrari boys will want to comment on post-session. Not get in the way, though, of the achievement from Matteo Cairoli. Because, OK, whether or not the Porsches have got an advantage, he had the advantage over his peers in the Porsches. 7/10 of a second it was. We've got father and son from the Rodas there. Giorgio on the right, Gianluca on the left. 2:15.654 though for the man in the middle. Matteo Cairoli gives him pole position in GTE.
Yeah, and a second pole of the year for the 88 car, the 88 crew. Here is EB Motors number 80. Again, this is the new GTE machine, so as we go further through the years, this car now being made available to customers. It used to be just the works entry, of course, with that engine and gearbox configuration reversed, so the gearbox now sits rearward of the engine and over that rear axle. It's changed the weight balance of the Porsche, but clearly it is the car to have this weekend in terms of single lap speed. The Porsche generally been quicker throughout the course of the year, with just that one pole coming for J&W Motorsport in Austria, and that was their first pole at the time since about 2010. So J&W Motorsport don't necessarily feature as the quickest on a Saturday, but they have had two race wins on a Sunday, and that means they're definitely in the championship fight. So to extend their championship by another point are the crew from number 88. Let's hear from the man who's just set the time with our very own Charlie George down in the pit lane. She's chatting to Matteo Cairoli.
Well, Matteo, congratulations. Second pole of the season for the number 88 car.
Yeah, amazing, just amazing lap. I mean, I was super impressed because the car was running perfectly. So the team did an amazing job. I was a bit emotional during the lap because I did everything right. And actually, when you do a qualifying, so it's pretty tough that you do everything perfect. But this time was like this, and I'm super happy about that.
Porsche are looking very strong here at Spa this weekend.
Yeah, actually, yes. I mean, we can see on the monitor that the Porsche are leading the pack now, and I think we have a good chance for tomorrow.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
22-year-old Matteo Cairoli, a gold-graded driver from Como in Italy, and unstoppable in that session. 7 tenths, I'll get there in a minute, 7 tenths of a second faster than anybody else, and it is exactly 7 tenths as well over the sister car, number 77, Dennis Olsen. who doesn't hang around in a Porsche either, let's face it. And it's Porsche's first, second and third on the grid. Here are the times: 2:15.654 and 0.7 of a second faster than Dennis Olsen's effort in 77. Third fastest, number 80, the EB Motors Porsche of Riccardo Pera. And then the Ferraris, JMW Motorsport ahead of Spirit of Race and Krone Racing. So was that a late deletion, I wonder, of Matt Griffin's time, or did Molyneux go through to improve again?
No, it must have been a deletion.
I think it was for the Irishman. So he celebrated that fact, and he had that final lap taken from him, Matt Griffin. So it'll be JMW Motorsport to start fourth ahead of Spirit of Race and Krone Racing. But we must turn our attention now to an 18-car field in the LMP3 category. The championship is headed by RLM Sport and their Ligier of John Ferrano, Joop van Uitert and Rob Garafort. And championship could be sealed this weekend, but it's tight. Just 12 points separate them from the number 11 Euro International squad, and United Autosport's not out of it yet either. At least the number 3 car isn't, with Tony Wells, Garrett Grist and Matt Bell.
Yeah, well, we've had 19 LMP3 cars on track earlier this afternoon for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Here's a further 18 to throw into the mix. A festival of sports car racing here at Spa-Francorchamps, as tends to happen when the ELMS Michelin Le Mans Cup are in town. But in terms of the championship, these are the big boys. This is the European Le Mans Series, European Championship. It's the 13 into Europol squad. Another team, by the way, announcing this week that they will be stepping up to LMP2 next year. Things are looking good for the future of this championship, with a number of teams looking to expand or upgrade the machinery they bring to what's been a thoroughly entertaining season, Johnny.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch teams like Inter Europol competition of Poland, because they started with one car in the ELMS in the LMP3 level, then acquired another Ligier JSP3, and now it's a Ligier P2 car that they've bought, isn't it?
It's a Ligier P2 car. They've also announced that they'll be taking one of their P3 cars to the Asia Le Mans Series. This is what track we're seeing for a number of these teams, as they're seeing the opportunity that's offered by the kind of staircase that's provided now globally, with the Continental Championships in Europe, in Asia, with the WEC, with the Michelin Le Mans Cup beyond that, and the number of teams that are actually making their way up through there, whether or not it's bringing their LMP3 cars into the European Le Mans Series, whether or not it's swapping LMP3 cars for an LMP2 car, or adding campaigns. It is a plan that's beginning to work.
Yeah. Just a quick glimpse there of the AT Racing machine. That's another Ligier. AT Racing, Austrian-based. Alexander Taukenitzer, senior and junior, joined by Jan Clary again this weekend, rather than Mikkel Jensen, as has been the case in the past. Still looking for their first podium of the season. Here's the number 5 Nefis by Speed Factory machine, 10th in the championship.
Yep, been making big strides forward, this team as well. They were, it has to be said, pretty much also-rans last year. Not this year. They've been in the thick of things. And, looking for those good results. We'll start to see some breakthrough things from the 5 crew.
Yeah, a couple of top 6s along the way, with their Russian and Ukrainian driving lineup of Boguslavsky, Chuklin and Pronenko.
John Feld there, standing, talking to one of the United team technicians. That means his teammate is aboard the number 2 car, and that, by the way, this weekend will not be Sean Rahal. Sean not well enough to be here. If you're listening in and watching in, Sean, I hope you get well soon. Instead, it's Scott Andrews, Australian driver, stepping aboard the number 2 car for this weekend. And
Scott new to the ELMS. And
yeah, he has done just about everything else in an LMP3 car, but not the ELMS.
That's right.
Raced in the Michelin Le Mans Cup previously, the Asia Le Mans Cup, the Asia Le Mans Series rather, the Asia Le Mans Sprint Cup, and the Gulf 12 Hours in LMP3 machinery, but not in the European Le Mans Series. This will be his competitive debut in just a few minutes' time.
And he's also not raced with United Autosports before either, but that's a team that he can fit into very quickly indeed. I'm sure the Anglo-American squad, based up in Yorkshire in the UK, but with strong ties to the other side of the Atlantic as well.
Yeah, Ultimates there, the beautiful cherry red and white livery. Norma now, another team that switched allegiance in terms of chassis from Ligier at the start of this year, and another team looking onwards and upwards. The three-man crew in the Ultimate car will be joining another team joining the Angel Le Mans Series in LMP2 for the winter season and working on their plans for next year, which they hope, finance willing, might see them take a step up. 6 car there.
1 minute to start qualifying for LMP3s. Under 1 minute to go green at pit exit for qualifying session.
Busy day down at the karting track as well, to the right of Curve Paul Frere. You get a great view when you get a chance to do a track walk around here on the Thursday of that very complex karting track. And when the pros turn up there, it is a sight to behold. I remember catching that late on a Sunday night last year. Something like 30-odd carts hammering around there at breakneck speed. We're in the middle of beautiful countryside, though, here at Spa-Francorchamps. Green meadows nearby. There's the number 11 car, second in the championship. Now coming here,
3 seconds to go green.
Off the back of a 16th place at Silverstone, so that's just sent them off a little bit as far as their championship challenge is concerned. But Mattia Drudi was a real star at Silverstone,
8, 7,
second generation
6,
Italian racer.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green. Pit exit is green.
Yeah, and Drudi stays with Euro International, but I think they switched cars. I think that's right. He's was in the other car, switched cars yesterday. A bit of a moment there for the Ultimate car. With the grip. Let's go to the hay for that Ultimate number 17. So some of the drivers we can confirm. There's Borger in the number 4 Kill Racing Ligier. Ross Kaiser is aboard the 360 racing car, the number 6. Jan Clary it is in the AT racing car. Ponzio in the Oregon team, the rainbow-coloured Norma. To Drudi in the number 11 Euro International car. Dayson in the 12. It's Kuba Shimowski in the 13 Inter Europol car. Utet in the 15, the RLRM Sports Championship leading car. Draconi in the BHK Ligier, the 16. To the hay we've already spotted there aboard the Ultimate Norma. Biel in the 18 M Racing Weimar car. David Drew in the 19, the Norma. And emerging since then, Scott Andrews we've spotted. Matt Bell in the number 3 United Autosports car. That is the car in championship contention at the moment for United. And it is Chutlin in the Nefis by Speed Factory car. We saw the 5 car on pit lane a little earlier. Klein in the returning DKR engineering car. They're very welcome back, and we're still waiting for the introduction into proceedings of the number 7 Ikuriakos Nielsen car. And it is going to be Colin Noble that emerges aboard that car.
So that's your 18, and this is set to be a very busy session, although we're at the longest track we visit all year, so there should be a little bit more real estate available to these drivers. 2 extra minutes as well in order to get that installation lap, that done. So with 10 still on the clock, here come then the first cars to be released from the pit lane. Ultimate in their red and white livery, going through the bus stop chicane, and to head across the line, Mathieu Lehay, who's generally been the quickest of those 3 drivers, the others being Jean-Baptiste, brother, and Francois Heriot, who has hot-footed it from, will have to hot-foot it from one car to another across the weekend, but he's not on qualifying duty, so he can cool off now after a very much delayed Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying session for the P3s. On board we go with Colin Noble, who's also on double duty this weekend for Ikuriakos Nielsen, heading towards the left-hander, and Pouan stretches out in front of him.
Now they held Colin in that car before coming out, looking for a bit of space, I'm sure, for him to express himself a little aboard the number 7. Ikuriakos, one of these teams that are really getting better and better and better with this LMP3 machinery.
Yes, Colin not with Alistair McCaig in the ELMS. It's Alex Capadia and Christian Olsen instead. And they've had a couple of second-place finishes through the season. Red Bull Ring in Silverstone, so 6th in the championship, and therefore 19.5 off the leaders. There's still a lot of cars that still are basically in contention here, should results fall their way, with 50 still on offer.
As always with a short season, you know, anybody in a pretty dominant position is just one really bad result away from a massive drama.
Absolutely.
I should say, by the way, on the first flying lap, first to be pinged for track limits, it's going to be Ross Kaiser. The 360 racing car is going to have the current lap deleted. Track limits at turn 4. So we should guard ourselves from being too excited by anything that I'm afraid Ross is doing on that lap.
So Noble has gone through, that was his out lap, likewise Marvin Klein for DKR Engineering.
Everybody now on their first flying lap. That means that only 8 minutes of real potential fast lappery remain. And the very first to come through, I think may well be the first to come through, is going to be Mathieu Lehay, number 17 Ultimate car.
And this will be there or thereabouts come 7.5 minutes time. And car 17 has 2 pole positions to their name already, Mathieu Lehay. I think he did both of them actually earlier on in the season.
So 2:14.687 immediately for Mathieu Lehay. Joop van Uite briefly goes second, but he's just nudged down to third because it's Anthony Borger for the number 4 Cool Racing squad at 2:15.0, so 4/10 the difference. Van Uite a further couple of tenths back, but then that gap split again by Jan Clary in the AT Racing cars. At the moment, Norma leads the order, the ultimate number 17 car. Then it's a gaggle of Ligiers, Borger, Clary, Van Uite, Cool Racing AT and RLRM Sports. But Drudy, the star from last time out, does it again, is the best of the Ligier runners right now. He goes through the 2:15.035, still 3.5 tenths down on Lehay's time, but the best of the Ligier. So it's Lehay from Drudy, Borger, Clary, Van Uite.
Yeah, Mattia, son of Luca Drudy, who has had loads of experience in endurance racing, several 24 Hours of Le Mans visits together with Spa and Daytona as well. Scott Andrews, though, going to the top of the times now, new to the ELMS, new with United Autosport. John Falb's teammate, though, at a 2:14.517 then from the Aussie. And it's 2 from 17 from 11, your top 3 in the early stages.
That's a great start to the run for United Autosports from Scott Andrews. Did say he wasn't really dialed into the car earlier today. Doesn't show Scott. 2:14.5 is the time for everyone else to beat. Mathieu Lehay, though, is going quicker on this time around. Colin Noble goes up second now. It's 0.5 tenth is the gap at the head of the field between Scott Andrews and Colin Noble. United Autosports number 2, Kyrgios Nielsen number 7. Lehay, though, is quicker than both of those men at the moment on this, his second flying lap. He's just a few seconds away from completing that. We've got 5.5 minutes remaining, and there are blue and purple sector times absolutely everywhere.
Unsurprisingly, because this is always how the LMP3 session unwinds in the ELMS, and we have all sorts of different names at the top of the times. As Mathieu Lehay goes back through, he says, "No, you don't," to Scott Andrews. "I want my 3rd pole of the year," and it's a 2:13.634 as David Drew slots in behind the Ultimate car. So now 17 fastest, 19 second quickest, and Scott Andrews relegated to 3rd.
So it's Norma plays Norma, then most of the Ligiers on the planet, then before we get into a couple of Normas just outside the top 10. But Mathieu Lehay, 0.8 of a second, all but a smidge ahead of David Drew. Scott Andrews about to finish his second flying lap. Drudy goes through, though. He grabs second, 0.5 second back now. Lehay, Drudy, Drew. Scott Andrews, I don't think is going to improve on this lap. Jan Clary has put himself between Andrews and Colin Noble. Noble, remember, running a little further back on the road from this group. Matt Bell goes up into 5th position for United Autosports.
Yeah, so the 2 United Autosport cars are together now on the screen, 4th and 5th fastest, and they are in search of their first pole of the year in LMP3. That team are. So let's see whether Scott Andrews has got anything else up his sleeve. He is going to have to wait till the next lap, as heading to Blanchimont corner very fast indeed is the number 7 car, Kyrgios Nielsen, driven by Colin Noble.
Not going the way, by the way, of the championship leaders in the 15 RLRM Sport car. Joop van Uite is 11th and is going to have the current lap deleted for track limits. And Mathieu Lehay, though, is purple sector again in the first sector. Colin Noble goes second quickest, leaving that car in to get a little bit of space, is paying dividends, 0.4 of a second back from Mathieu Lehay. So the 17 from the 7, then the 11, then the 8, that's the top 4. Norma, Ligier, Norma.
And the best qualified car so far in the championship top 3 is the number 11, welcoming Mathieu Drudy, as you say. He raced the number 12 car at Silverstone, but switched to number 11 this weekend. Here comes the number 15 car, the championship leader then, RLR M Sport. So this is the lap going to be deleted,
This is lap 3, we're told. Lap 4 is going to be deleted this lap, I believe. And that's going to be bad news, because Van Uter has improved to 4th, but I think that lap is going to go. Keep an eye on that one.
Yeah. So that was decided early on in the lap, if it was discretion maybe at the source or Eau Rouge.
But watching the 3rd place man at the moment, Drudy is on a flyer. It looks like that's going to be good enough for at least 2nd. He's going to be crossing the line in just a few moments' time, Johnny.
Yeah, out of the bus stop and over the line comes Drudy in that all black then, or dark blue Euro International car, and it goes 2nd fastest, 65 thousandths of a second, separating Mathieu Lehay from 20-year-old Mathieu Drudy.
Now, Mathieu Lehay still going quicker in the first sector than Drudy there, but not as quick as he's gone before. So Mathieu Lehay still out there and punching. What has Drudy got to offer? He just needs to find a 10th to make the difference between being on the front row, being on pole position. And what has anybody else got to offer here? DK Engineering in the hands of Client. That car is 5th quickest, not quite as quick in the middle sector as the best of the Ligiers.
The Oregon Norma now heading out of Bruxelles corner and through the left-hander at Speakers. Car 10 is 14th fastest, and currently doing the qualifying is Poncio. That's Ricardo Poncio, the silver in the combination, 21 years old. Lots of young talent coming through in LMP3, and that was always the case really when this Tiber racing this category was first born, to try and get kids that are focused on a single-seated career to tell them, okay, you can race 2-seaters as well just as quickly. A big puff of tyre smoke there from Poncio as he gets the car stopped for Campus Corner.
So no major improvements in the last couple of minutes. Van Uter stays 4th with that lap. May well have been the earlier lap, in which case he lost. So, ultimate, Euro International, Akuria Kost-Nielsen's number 7 car, the 15 from RLR M Sport, DKR Engineering, M Racing YMR, as the Mathieu Lehay ducks out of this lap and pits the car. AT Racing and then the 2 United Autosports cars. That is your top 10. A little bit of reshuffling here. That's Client. Just closed down a little by David Drew. Ross Kaiser leaps up the timing screens from down the bottom just a lap or 2 ago. He's into the top 7 now. The clock about to time out, so from here on in, just 10 seconds time, we're going to be into cars finishing their runs, Johnny.
Yeah, and Ultimate already in, maybe doing a Matteo Cairoli here, figuring we've done enough, but it's only 65 thousandths of a second that they rest on.
But Drudy went through with about 1 second on the clock. He has this lap to potentially improve that time.
Yeah. Heading out of La Source now and down towards turns 2 and 3 at Eau Rouge. There's also improvement in the early part of the lap from David Drew in the number 19 M Racing YMR Norma, and from Ross Kaiser at the wheel of the Ligier from 360 Racing.
And also not that far away on elapsed time so far, Colin Noble still sitting 3rd, goes through with a quicker time in the middle sector than the pole position man actually managed. Not quite as quick in sector 1. There's a couple of tenths in this. So Colin Noble's time, could he close down on the 2 front row sitting cars at the moment? What can David Drew do on this, the last flying lap of the session for each of these drivers? Here comes Noble. He does close in, but not enough. It's the 2:13s, but he's still 3.5 tenths back. David Drew looks to me, and Ross Kaiser look to me to be the men potentially to challenge up. Van Uter is having a crack at the end here as well with a stellar middle sector, half a second quicker than Mathieu Lehay's best. That is going to put that car very close.
It is. He's lost about a second, though, I think, in the first sector.
Yeah.
That's the problem. A 39.4, compare that to Mathieu Lehay's 38.6, and Lehay's car now sits in the pit lane, but Joop van Uitert could still extend maybe into the top 3 and possibly a front row start up for grabs.
Kaiser goes third. Leapfrogs Colin Noble right at the end.
And Van Uitert over the line, but 5th because of Kaiser's improvement. So it's going to be for the championship leaders no better than 5th, and we may still see cars leapfrog that machine in the dying stages. The clock is now at 0, the checkered flag being displayed, but Mattia Drudi is going to be just about the last car over the line here. He is.
He's not going to improve. He's
16, 14 and 11 still to come across the line and finish the session. But you reckon he's lost too much time, the young Italian?
He lifted off. On the last lap there. More or less done there, Johnny. That was impressive stuff from Mathieu Lehay. Attacked that session from the very off.
Absolutely, and by far the best qualifier this year, because that is a 3rd pole position for the season for Ultimate. Mathieu Lehay now speaking to Charlie George.
Well, Mathieu, congratulations. Pole number 3, you must be delighted with that.
Yeah, we are very, very happy because all the team did a good job. We had some engine problems during the pre-practice, so we didn't know exactly where was the pace compared to the other car, but yeah, we really had a great car, and yeah, I managed to do a good lap without any traffic, and yes, it was a very good lap. I'm so happy for the team.
What are the conditions like out there?
No, it's okay. The track is nearly dry in every part of the track, and no, we'll see tomorrow, because I think tomorrow it will be another deal with a lot of rain. So, but we are good under the rain too, so it's okay.
Thank you.
Mathieu Lehay with fantastic English, as is the case in the whole of the Lehay family, and it's very much a Lehay kind of team going there, with as far as Jean-Baptiste and Mathieu, the brothers, but also I think it's Mathieu's wife who is the team manager there, and other members too involved in getting that team up there in terms of the ratings. They are topping the times then in this qualifying session, but still looking for their first win of the year come the races. They are fastest by 65 thousandths of a second then than the number 11 car of Euro International, second in the championship, and therefore out qualifying other drivers that are well placed in the rankings, including RLR, who have only qualified 5th, with Joop van Uitert at the wheel of the RLR M Sport car, and 3rd position for the number 3. Where is that in the qualifying times? They're 10th place, and they enter this race 3rd in the championship. So Matt Bell did his level best in the United Autosports Ligier, but that struggled a little bit too. Scott Andrews out qualifying the sister machine, new to the ELMS, but Scott managing to put the United Autosports number 2 car 8th fastest. Again, a really mixed up grid, and it's set to be a mixed up race tomorrow once the rain hits. Mathieu Lehay sort of alluding to the fact that we have potentially a passing thunderstorm, which could really interrupt matters tomorrow, and maybe in the final hour as well.
Worth saying, by the way, top 10 cars within a single second, and the 11th car just a smidge over that. So it's close run stuff. In the first 2, of course, those the top 2 cars in that session, basically half a tenth of a second apart, with Ross Kaiser closing to under a quarter of a second back from that. So it's tight stuff. It's not going to take much, and we've seen, even if we get a smattering of rain in the race tomorrow, that is really going to throw some real variables into the mix. One not to miss.
Certainly so, and we now get to the fastest cars in this triple header qualifying session, because it's LMP2s next, and 16 of them, as this is a really growth area of the grid in modern day European Le Mans Series racing. The calendar announced only yesterday for 2019, with a change of venue. Rather than a trip to Red Bull Ring in Austria, we're going to Barcelona in Spain of next year at the Circuit de Catalunya, with a first visit for this championship under the branding of European Le Mans Series. The LMS has been there many times before. At the last race there, 2009, so it's been a bit of a break. And as the grid continues to improve, really, in terms of numbers, we have got a great future for the ELMS for coming years. It's looking like the 26 car, though, is on course for a championship, mainly because nobody can prevent it from winning right now. It's on the back of 3 victories, Monza, Red Bull Ring and Silverstone, and therefore this 34-point lead that it has over Spanish squad Racing Engineering in their first championship year in the ELMS. More familiar in single-seater type racing, but great to have those guys as part of the championship. And it's Hedek Sport who are third, with Paul Lafargue, I think, back from a back injury that prevented him from racing at Barcelona in another championship a few weeks ago. Paul-Luc Chatin and Memo Rojas complete the lineup at Hedek.
Yep, we've got the number 49 Dallara here, the Polar Seafood and the Scandinavia Paint liveried car. New livery last time around for the good-looking Dallara of high-class racing. But yeah, lots of factors to chuck into this, isn't there? We've got the fabulous 4.2-litre V8 Gibson engine in the back of all of these cars, but a mix of Dallara, Ligier and the Orica chassis that's been really dominating, but also increasingly a tyre battle between the Dunlop runners and the Michelin runners. And there is a change here to report, because United Autosports, having battled all year to find something to unlock the code of the Oricas they've been banging heads with all year, have made the call for the remaining 2 races of this season to change the tyres. I suspect because of the example set by the Panis Barthez team. We're looking at that car right now, and the very good pace that they managed to squeeze out of the number 23 car. But, both the 22 and the 32 Ligiers are on Michelin rubber here this weekend.
Therefore, it's almost a 50-50 split now in the LMP2s. 9 Dunlop runners and 7 Michelin runners, with the addition of those 2 United Autosport machines. And at times, Michelin has proved to be the quicker tyre, particularly for the Ligier chassis.
I just spotted another change on the screen there. Now, Aurélien Panis is the son of Olivier Panis, of course, team principal at Panis Barthez. Aurélien, though, will be contesting this race in the number 27 Hedek Sport Ligier. Just spotted there as well, Nick Manazin is listed against the car now, which he wasn't yesterday.
No, you're right. Doing all the testing, it was Panis, as far as I know. But we'll see whether that has changed late on.
Car that missed Silverstone round last time round, but back now with Panis Jr.
Yep.
Manazin, the older.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, we'll wait and see whether there's been a change, but Olivier Panis, father of Aurélien, of course, here with his own team as well, Panis Barthez Competition, who have taken a pole position this year with the number 23 car. Will Stevens doing that time. It's a car that he shares with Tim Bourret and Julien Canal. So there's been a pole for 23, there's been a pole for car 21, the Dragon Speed Orica, and there's also been 2 poles for the Hedek Sport car, number 28 of Paul Lafargue, Paul-Luc Chatin and Memo Rojas.
Alfonso de Bourmont, the team principal at Racing Engineering. Winner's first time out. There you go. Cheery chap. Spanish nobleman of some repute. And of course, this team moving over from, well, single-seater racing at almost the very highest level. GP2 and F2 had their successes there. Where we go, though, Johnny, for what will be just 12 minutes to settle pole position at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, and 2 of those will be all about the outlap. And, of course, the fight to the end of the pit lane as well, which has already been won by Duquesne Engineering. Car 29 then being driven by Nelson Pansitici. They're in search of their first pole of the year. And as more and more cars emerge from the Grand Prix pit lane, we'll put some names against cars. For instance, Ben Hanley, the Mancunian, will be driving number 21, the Dragon Speed Orica. Will Stevens is at the wheel of Panis Barthez Competitions Ligier. Norman Nato driving Racing Engineering's Orica. That's the very Spanish squad with the Spanish livery, the red and the yellow. Matt McMurray, in addition to Algarve Pro Racing, quite late on this weekend, taking over from Atta de Jong. But it's the 2 other familiar drivers. I mean, Matt McMurray is no stranger to the team and has raced with them in the past. Taxon, Kim and Mark Patterson being the other drivers for 25, but they will obviously take part in the race rather than in qualifying. Aurélien Palace is here and at the wheel of the 27 then to qualify that. Paul-Luc Chatin installed in car 28. Pansiatici I've told you about it. Konstantin Tereschenko driving the AVF. Dallara, car number 30. Hugo de Sadeleer driving United Autosports Ligier. And then we've got James Allen in the G-Drive car, much repaired Orica there, number 40. Felipe Nasr in the Cetilar Villorba Corsa Dallara. The other Dallara, which is High Class Racing's machine, now yellow and black. And yet Anders Fjordbach driving that. Philippe Albuquerque in United Autosports Ligier. Jean-Eric Verne in the championship leading G-Drive Orica, number 26. And as more and more cars join the session, we still haven't seen yet 31 and 39 for APR Rebellion Racing and for Graf.
Yeah, the second Graf car, I'm afraid, also damaged in free practice 2 this morning. Tris Gomendi caught out when the very heavy rain came after braking at La Source, putting the car into the wall, but that looked to be pretty well under control when I came by. We've now got the number 31 car, the APR Rebellion Orica, joining the session, and it is Gustavo Menezes, man who sits second in the FI World Endurance Championship, Drivers' Championship, courtesy of that remarkable double disqualification for the Toyota team at Silverstone, with Rebellion Racing in the hunt. And this car, APR with Rebellion Racing, APR being of course Algar Pro, that's Gustavo Menezes flying the Swiss flag there, driver, but Rebellion retained driver at that, as the cars make their way round to start what will be the flying laps that matter in this 12-minute qualifying session.
So the first car to come around will be, well, we said 29, the Duquesne Engineering car was the first.
Yep.
And that fits just about, I think, although Duquesne backed off on this lap maybe to get a bit of space. No, I think Nelson Pansiatici wasting no time at all.
Now there is a car ahead of him,
yes,
but I think that's the 31.
Yes, it is, who's only just joined the session. So that might cause a problem towards the end, but Gustavo Menezes, I'm sure, will keep a keen eye on the rearview mirror and give Pansiatici a bit of room. The second lap for car 40 is going to be deleted already because of track limits at turn 4, which is on the exit of Radion corner.
It's a big lock up from Ben Hanley into the Kemmel Straight, and that would have done very many favours. So yes, Gustavo Menezes just ahead of the first car out of the pits. Still to see yet the 39 Graf Racing car. Just 8 minutes remaining. A lot of time to wait and see how this session is going to emerge.
Here comes Nelson Pansiatici then, with the car hopping around all over the place, but he kept control of it. This is an Orica, and a very sideways as well, coming out of the bus stop chicane. Not really known that chassis for porpoising an awful lot, but over the line it goes. It's a 201.932. Immediately behind it on the road is Will Stevens in a Ligier, and faster than both of them, Paul-Luc Chatin for Hidex Sport in car 28. So Chatin at 28 fastest from Pansiatici, Will Stevens in 23 third fastest, Hugo de Sadeleer goes fourth fastest, with Ben Hanley's time obviously affected by that big lock-up at the end of the Kemmel, sixth quickest for the Brit.
So three cars now into the 201s. Norman Nato splits the two. The gap at the top of topping the scoring is 0.02 of a second between Paul-Luc Chatin in the 28 Hidex Sports Orica, Norman Nato in the 24 Racing Engineering car. 201.809 plays 201.811. Then Nelson Pansiatici, who might well have lost the opportunity for that provisional pole position with that slide through the final turn, 201.932. Then we've got the first of the non-Oricas, Will Stevens, with a 202.679 in the Panis Barthez Ligier. That mark, though, is beaten by Felipe Albuquerque, goes third quickest. Another man in the 201s, 201.927, 10th of a second off the provisional pole, puts him third, but puts him ahead of Nelson Pansiatici. To the top, though, and by a distance, guess who? Jean-Eric Verne. 2 minutes, 0.937 for the number 26 G-Drive racing car. 9/10 of a second, all but that smidge, to the good for the dominant championship leaders at the moment. Jean-Eric Verne, 2 minutes .937, placed 2:01.809.
And that puts us way quicker than last year's pole position, which was a 2:02.457 for the Dragon Speed car. That would have been Lapierre or Hanley setting the time. Jean-Eric Verne, though, is, a second and a half faster than that, as Gustavo Menezes in that car, number 31, has now slotted between Jean-Eric Verne and Nelson Panciatici. And Paul-Louis Chatin goes quicker than the Californian driver as well, but not quicker than Frenchman Verne. So it's a 2:01.5 for Chatin, a 2:01.6 for Menezes, and a 2:01.7 from Panciatici, which stood from his opening lap.
Well, what is it? It's 5 cars separated by 0.4 of a second, squabbling over second, but still 0.6 of a second to the good is Jean-Eric Verne. So everybody improving, but they've got a gap to fill here, and quite a substantial one. At the moment, it's filled by the void that separates Jean-Eric Verne's time in this session from everybody else.
Yeah, over half a second between Verne and Paul-Louis Chatin for G-Drive Racing and EDEC Sport, respectively.
Ben Hanley, by the way, is part of a gaggle of cars that have actually opted to pit, and that might well be, what if he's got a flat spot, will have done from that big lock-up at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Looking for where the improvements are going to come. Philippe Albuquerque is pitted too. So G-Drive from EDEC Sports 28 car, the APR Rebellion 31, Duquesne Engineering, Racing Engineering the top 5. All those cars in the 2:01s, apart from Verne, who is in the 2 minutes .9. And Verne pits now as well, so he's not looking to improve here. This is going to be a quick turnaround. I think he probably thinks, Johnny, he's done enough there.
Well, and who can blame him, frankly, because 0.575 of a second is the cushion back to everybody else leading the championship, setting this session to extend their lead then by a further point to make it 35. Back to Racing Engineering, who are struggling a little bit in this session, only 5th fastest, 3rd in the championship and 2nd in this session, car 28. So they're trying to do their job as best they can, and a new front end and side, it looks like, for car 40. So carrying the G-Drive sponsorship on some of the panels, but that's been a new nose then for car number 40, driven by Aussie James Allen, who now turns right and left.
Yeah, and he's going to improve here, because this is realistically his first attempt at a proper flying lap. And he is going to pop up exactly where? Just 10th for James Allen. It's a 2:03. Oh, yes, because he's been pinged that lap, that's why. So track limits at turn 9. So James Allen again gets another slap on the wrist. It's at least the 2nd lap that the Aussie has been docked for track limits.
And you might have caught a glimpse in the background of that shot as James Allen came across the line of Norman Nato, tucking into the pit lane. So Nato out of the session. They are changing Dunlop tyres on this car. 2 3/4 minutes still to go. So is this more of a dummy pit stop to just, yeah, I think it is actually, just to pretend that that was in a race format and get a bit of practice for the crews, and that will be end of session for car 24. Not going to be able to get out and put in a flying lap with only 2.5 minutes to go.
I think I quantify that lap from Jean-Eric Verne as simply demoralising for the rest. It was so competent and so demonstrably quicker than anybody else could achieve at that point, that even while they were battling around the squabbling group behind him, they were battling around for a 10th, a 10th and a half, maximum 2 tenths, and I'm afraid the mountain was rather higher than that.
Yeah. Well, Racing Engineering have sent their Orica back out again, and there are 5 cars now, all on an out lap and all around about the Bruxelles Speakers Corner sort of area. Actually, Jean-Eric Verne is much further round the lap than that. He's just heading through Curve Paul Frere now at turn 15. So Jean-Eric Verne certainly will squeeze one more lap out of this. Out of Campus Corner comes number 47, which is the Villorba Corsa entry for Felipe Nasr.
There are, though, some quick men still out there, and quick men with progress that they need to make. Will Stevens is not going to be happy with 8th position on the grid so far for the Panis Bartis competition. Ligier, the Michelin shod car, has been right up at the sharp end in qualifying this year. Konstantin Terashenko is, if anything, quicker, certainly in the first sector, than the the Ligier ahead. He's currently sitting 9th and going quickly, and also Ben Hanley way down after that big lock-up and a pit stop, 12th quickest only in the Dragon Speed car. He's going to want to put that car further up the grid.
Felipe Nasser properly messed up the bust-up chicane. Was a little bit wide here coming out of Campus Corner, but I thought for a moment he was being called into the pit lane. Actually, he was just trying to arrest a massive slide from the rear of car 47, and he's continued on, but lost a lot of time in that final sector. About 2 seconds actually for the Brazilian driver. They'll get one more bite of the cherry. 30 seconds to go. Here's number 32 from United Autosports. Again, a little bit of ground to make up here for the car driven by Swiss Hugo de Sadelier. And all of these cars will get one more lap out of the session with 20 seconds there. Improvement for Ben Hanley.
Ben Hanley and de Sadelier improved. So does Tereshchenko. Sadelier briefly up to 7th. That drops back down to 9th as Hanley and Tereshchenko leapfrog him. They will get another lap if they want it. Just a few seconds still left on the clock.
And the next car through to receive the checkered flag will be Anders Fjordbach in the high-class racing Dallara. So number 49 about to end the session. There's a bit of bodywork sitting on the track at a Radeon corner.
That is an APR car. That
Flexbox sponsorship.
Yes.
So 31 or 25 are we looking for? There's the checkered flag, and it is Fjordbach over the line. Whoa, hopping its way over Radeon corner.
It was the full engine cover ripped off.
Yes.
So it hit the curb, and that's damaged the right-hand wheel, rear wheel cover. But we saw the entire engine cover leapfrog. Felipe Albuquerque has gone to pole. Felipe Albuquerque has gone to pole position.
Despite yellow flags at turns 1, 2, 3 and 4.
He was way clear of that. He was way clear of that.
Obviously, because he was in the final bit of the lap, but there are yellow flags because of this bit of debris, and that's going to mean...
Jean-Eric Verne, in the death of the session, beats that. Wow.
By just under 0.2 of a second. So Philippe Albuquerque thinking he'd got the job done for he and Phil Hansen through the affected area where this debris has ended up from Matt McMurray's car, but Jean-Eric Verne was also in the clear. And nobody surely will have the opportunity to improve now because of the caution in the early part of the lap, Graham.
Well, while we're all watching bodywork going north from at Radeon, what was happening on track was Jean-Eric Verne had come back out. He'd seen the potential threat from others, including Felipe Albuquerque. Albuquerque put in the fastest middle sector of the session, as Pensiatici, by the way, goes 3rd quickest right at the end of the session. Jean-Eric Verne, though, was not quite as quick in the middle sector, was much quicker in the first sector and much quicker again in the final sector. Takes it by 0.177 a second. That between two teams, G-Drive and United Autosports, two chassis, the Orica and the Ligier, and let's not forget two tyre manufacturers. That could have been Michelin on pole for United Autosports. It's not, because unless something utterly dramatic happens in the final seconds from Norman Nato, and it's not going to, that puts Jean-Eric Verne with the Dunlop Shod G-Drive Orica onto pole position.
And amazingly, for such a dominant championship leading car, that's a first pole of the year for Roman Rusinov, Andrea Pizzitola and Jean-Eric Verne. So they are quicker than Philippe Albuquerque in his Ligier for United Autosports. A 2 minutes 0.9 for the Portuguese, 2 minutes 0.7 for Jean-Eric Verne. Nelson Panzitici also improved very late on in the session, so he must have been through turns 1, 2, 3 and 4 before the yellows came out. Nelson Panzitici puts the Duquesne Engineering car 3rd fastest, and Duquesne would be far better off in the championship were it not for that disqualification that came at Red Bull Ring. G-Drive Racing then with a first pole of the year to take the best starting place in the LMP2 category by 0.177 of a second over Philippe Albuquerque's United Autosports Ligier. Duquesne qualified 3rd ahead of Edex Sport, 2nd in the championship, and 5th position for number 31, the APR Gustavo Menezes driven car. Norman Nato for Racing Engineering, 6th fastest ahead of Ben Hanley for Dragon Speed. Konstantin Tereshchenko for AVF by Adrian Valles. 9th fastest was number 32, the United Autosports car of Hugo de Sadelier, and Will Stevens for Panes Bartes Competition complete the top 10. Matt McMurray did get around, minus that bodywork, and we didn't at any point see the number 39 car from Graf, which was damaged this morning.
I should say, Matt McMurray did remarkably well to keep that car on track, actually. And by the way, what you're looking at here is something we're about to see lapping in public for the very first time. Ladies and gentlemen, the dawning of the hydrogen era is about to happen. This is the H24 project car with the Green GT team.
Emits nothing but water, is that right, Graham?
I believe so. We saw the car, didn't we, Johnny, as we arrived at the circuit yesterday doing a kind of undercover lap. But
yes.
We'll hear more about this. Keep an eye on Daily Sports Car and other outlets in the coming hours.
But let's hear from Roman Rusinoff now with Charlie George. It's a first pole of the year for G-Drive Racing.
Well, Roman, it was a little bit nail-biting at the end, but he got the job done, didn't he?
Yeah, quite incredible. We knew that Albuquerque can do a really good lap with Michelin, especially here. So we put a second set of tires to try to fight for the pole position, and Jean-Ric did an incredible job, so we're in pole. I think it's a record in LMP2 here in Spa-Francorchamps, so we're pretty happy. We hope that tomorrow we can race because of when I'm sure about the weather. So let's see how it's going to be tomorrow, but for sure it's a good start of the weekend.
And the first pole of the season for you guys.
Yeah, you know, your season, we still have 2 races to go, so let's first have a race tomorrow and have fun, and then at the end of the day it's what we are looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, they've extended their championship lead a little bit. It now goes to 35 points. Can they make it 4 wins in a row then and seal the championship? A win in tomorrow's race would be just about enough for Roman Rusinoff, who was the first ever Le Mans Series champion back in 2004 when he was racing in the GT category. And actually this weekend we reached race 75 in the long history of the European Le Mans Series stroke Le Mans Series. It's a bit of a momentous occasion then here in 2018. Be sure to join us tomorrow for all of the action. It's a 12:30 local time start through till 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. My thanks to Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com. From Johnny Palmer, it's bye for now.